Welcome to LOA Today. I'm Walt Thiessen here with Steve Rowell. Today is Tuesday, February the 19th, 2019. It's 8 a.m. in New York, 5 a.m. in Los Angeles. It is 1 p.m. in London, and Sydney, Australia is at 12 midnight, wherever you are in the world. Thank you for joining us for another episode of LOA Today, your daily dose of happy, which hasn't been so daily the last couple days because I got knocked down by a flu bug. Literally knocked down, Steve. I couldn't get out of bed for most of the last couple days. But I am finally feeling more like a human being. I may not look like a human being, but I feel more like a human being. So, that's a good thing.
Indeed. But it's funny because it's always, I think illness is always a sign that you need to take a break.
Yes.
It's your body saying, hang on a minute, let's have a wind down, let's have a rest and come back fighting, really, I think.
It also had some interesting positive side effects that I didn't really expect. And some of them are going to sound a little strange because they don't sound all that positive. But one of the positive side effects was that it reminded me just how much I've been focusing on stuff that I didn't want lately, which I have been. I've been trying very hard to, do my daily exercises and so forth to keep my mind on where I want. But the last week or so, 2 weeks, I really wasn't doing it. More than that, actually. There was a lot of time where I was just focusing on the wrong stuff. And I could tell, oh, yeah, okay, it's all coming back to haunt me now. I can feel it. So that was the first thing, was recognizing that. The second good thing was that, by the way, if you get this flu that's going around, make sure you hydrate yourself. I mean, I've been hydrating myself like crazy, and I'm still dry. It's just amazing how much water this thing uses up. But anyway, as I was hydrating myself and trying to survive the last few days, I found my mind going in directions that I didn't really expect. It started when I realized, well, like any of us who are deliberate creators, we know the moment that we're in a situation we don't like, it's like a red flag saying, okay, focus on what you want, stop focusing on the stuff you don't want. So that's what I was doing. I was focusing more on what I wanted. I was determined to get healthy. I was determined to feel better, and so on and so forth. And then as I got through the first few stages of that, the first few times, because you know how it is, especially if you're feeling bad, it takes a while to kind of turn it around. But as I started to turn it around, I started to get feedback from my inner being, I'm pretty sure, about various projects I'm working on. And I started to get some ideas that I hadn't gotten before. So it's almost like I had to get sick in order to be open enough to receive stuff that I wasn't getting. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It does indeed.
It's a very annoying thing. I mean, I certainly don't want to have to make that a regular pattern. But
no. Well, it's funny because that used to be, and still is at times, because I can still fall back into it. One of my patterns was very, very similar to that, whereby, yes, I'm deliberately creating things. So, for example, if I created something awesome and fantastic in my life that I deliberately created using the law of attraction, then after I'd done that, I think I've spoken about this before, I'd have 3 negative things happen. No, I don't think I've spoken about
I don't remember. Tell me about it.
No, but this is a pattern that I always used to go through. So, one great, awesome thing had happened. So, for example, when I manifested the supercar, immediately afterwards, in fact, it wasn't the supercar. What was it? I can't remember. Anyway, it's something that I'd manifested. I think it might have been the work I was doing with the church and the archbishop and other things that were turning up, and it was all starting to go in the 100 mile an hour in the direction that I intended it to go.
Right.
And then the next thing I've got the floor, the washing machine decided to flood the brand new laminate flooring that I put down. The dog got sick, so I had to take him to the vets, and that cost us a lot of money.
Yeah.
And then what was the third one? Third one was, but there was another one that happened.
Well, it shows how well you're doing at keeping your mind off what you don't want. You can't even remember what the third thing was that you don't want.
Well, yeah, but these things, I had created them as we all do, create everything that happens.
Absolutely.
Because I always, if something good happens, not anymore because I've noticed it and I've worked on it with my coach. Because I mentioned it to him and he said, that's a pattern that keeps happening, Steve. We need to work on that. But yeah, every time something great happened, I'd have three negatives that would happen, and I'd accept that was going to happen. It wouldn't upset me as such, because I was expecting it to happen. Then I thought, once these bad things have gone and happened, then we can get back on the track to creating what we actually want.
Right. It's true. I'm not saying that like it's normal, but that's not the way we normally think about things. But I'm glad to say it's the way I think about things now. You know.
So we're all human. We all have these subconscious programs that we're used to running on, that we can change. So that once I'd noticed that was the case, because I'd never really noticed it before, and it was like, hang on a minute. I'm choosing for these three things to happen after something good turns up for me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't actually have to do that anymore.
Right.
I can choose not to.
Yeah.
So let's choose not to from now on. But it is that simple, but also it takes time, effort and practice to get to that point, doesn't it?
I don't know if this same cliche exists in the UK, but in the US we have a cliche that the number varies, but bad things always happen in 3s or in 5s or in 6s or whatever. And I always found it fascinating. These are 3s there? Okay. So bad things happen in 3s. And I was always fascinated by the people who repeated them because they had plenty of evidence to show that bad things happen in 3s. It always happened in 3s for them. And here you are describing exactly why it happens. I love it.
But it happened because they were expecting 3 bad things to happen. So
Absolutely.
Once they created one, then they were looking for another. So guess what?
It had to show up. It had to. It was terrible.
And then another one, because they were looking for the third one.
So they could say, I told you so.
Yeah. But then after the third one showed up, they're not looking for any more, so nothing else happens.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
It's crazy.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It is all about perception and then our expectation of what is going to show up that then creates that for us, isn't it? It's awesome.
Yeah. It's scary, but it's awesome. Because it shows it shows us how much we're in control of our own experience. And this is it. It's kind of it's awe-inspiring. It's kind of terrifying at times because we are in control of our own experience. So it means everything we're experiencing, we did. Like, I can't get away with anything anymore.
which is great because once you realise that, it makes you take full responsibility for it.
Yes, exactly.
And then there are no bad experiences.
Yes,
because you can't put, if you've created it, you've asked for it, so you can't blame somebody else. You can't say that it's a circumstance that's caused it, or a person, or a place, or a thing. It's all down to you. So therefore, guess what? You can change it.
That's
and you
right.
Can move forward.
That's exactly
and
it.
That's where the power comes from. So it can be scary, and it was when I first started using this stuff, because my subconscious programs wanted to stay in this negative, or worrying about this, worrying about having enough money, worrying about going to work, what people might think of me, is the car going to break down, all these silly little things that used to be there all of the time.
Right.
You start learning this stuff, and you see all these thoughts, and you're like, shit, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? Everything's going to go wrong because I'm thinking all these bad things, but I think the key is once you start noticing that you're having those thoughts, then you can actively change them for the ones that you want. And that's the key.
Yeah.
That is the key.
It's the step that a lot of people who are used to being victims don't really want to notice. And they don't really want to own. Because there is a certain, I don't want to call it a comfort, because we often call that the comfort zone, and it's not comfortable at all. There's a certain familiarity. There's a certain, I'm used to this kind of mentality, to being in that victimhood mentality. And when you realize you don't have to stay there anymore, and you can actually take control and produce the outcome you want, it's almost like a slap across the face in one sense, but in another sense, it's enlightening and it's exciting and it's thrilling. And a lot of people kind of get hung up on that point. It's a tough point for some people, and understandably. I mean, you for instance, you went through some really, really rough stuff when you were a kid. and you completely rebounded out at, the other end, and now you're just like living it up. But you made a choice. You could have chosen to go the other way. I mean, it's not like something came along and.
Yeah.
Well,
I did make that choice for around 30 years.
Oh, wow.
Well, no. 25 years, I made the choice to be that victim and use that as, not an excuse as such, but I suppose it is an excuse to stay where I was.
Yeah.
And you're right, because your subconscious mind and your body gets addicted. It's very much like drug addiction, or alcoholism or whatever, because your subconscious mind, when you're in that place of, place of anxiety, fear and sadness, whatever you want to call it, because those are all the feelings that I used to experience on a daily basis, even though nothing was happening to me at that point in time.
Right.
Because I was choosing to relive
right.
the experience of the past every day.
Right.
365 days a year. I was constantly in a place of fight and flight mode, if you like.
Mm-hmm. And it's odd, too, that you describe it as a choice. For most people, when they're up against that, it doesn't feel like a choice, does it? It doesn't.
It didn't for me. No.
No.
It didn't for me for all those years. It is a choice, yeah. But bear with me.
That's all right.
It's okay. Yeah, I thought the dog had escaped.
Oh no, we don't want that.
So for me, I lived in that place of with all these nasty chemicals in my body coming from the emotions of fear, pain, anxiety, whatever you want to say.
Right.
Every day of my life for such a long period of time that my body got so used to that. If I took those away, it screamed out in pain. What are you doing? I'm not allowed to feel happy. That's odd. I can't feel happy. Yeah. I want to be back in this pain, this misery, because that's where I'm used to being.
Right.
And that is scary. It's a scary place to be in. So actually, when you're in that place, it does not feel like you have got a choice. Mm. So I'd never say to somebody that you're choosing to feel like that. They are, but subconsciously it doesn't feel like that at that point in time. Yeah. It's about giving them the tools to teach their subconscious that there is a choice, because it doesn't currently believe that there is. It's just that used to being there. But once you've got the tools, which is one of the things I gave in one of the earlier podcasts, one of the tools that I use,
right,
is that I can actually decide whether I want to stay in this or I can decide to go off in a different direction and feel happy and look at things from a different perspective.
Right. Yep, exactly. So, That's it in a nutshell. It's really an amazing thing to me. I continue to be surprised and amazed and just blown away by how the human mind can, on its own, if you're not being the director of it, the person who's driving the bus, if you just let it go, it can go in all kinds of directions that are actually very painful and can actually get us into a lot of trouble. And yet that's what it does. And like you say, we have to retrain it. We have to train ourselves. No, I don't want to go in that direction. I don't like bricks falling on my head. I'm going to avoid bricks falling on my head. It seems so obvious, but it's amazing how we can get into that space, that state of mind, and stay there. I mean, 30 years you said you stayed there. 30 years, that's a long time.
It's going to be probably about 26, but still, a long time.
Well, only 26. That's good.
but again, I didn't realise. So people sometimes shout me down for this because I say that it's a choice, and these are people that are still stuck in that space of they don't think that they have. So, but when I explained to them that actually I spent 26 years in that space, or however long it was, in exactly the same situation as them. And I didn't think I had a choice either. Mm-hmm. But now I've stepped out of that, let me show you how.
Right.
If you're open to it, then it's not easy. It is really difficult to get yourself out of that because your subconscious mind wants to stay there for the rest of its life because that's where it feels comfortable.
That's right.
Even though it's not comfortable, it's really painful and it hurts like hell. But it's, like you say, familiar.
Yeah, exactly.
But again, once you start working on this stuff and start seeing it for what it is. Now, one of the major turning points for me, this is probably going to be difficult for some people to hear, especially people that have been through similar situations, I would think. But one of the major turning points for me was realising, now this is going to be controversial, that all those things that happened in my past, so the abuse that I suffered at the hands of this person in power, I actually created that.
Yeah, that's advanced. That's far beyond where a lot of people are. That's a lot to handle.
It is.
Yeah.
And it was when I first went through this. But if I look at it and I look back to how I created it and why, it makes sense.
Really? You were able to actually figure that out. That's pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah, I figured that out. And I can own that now. Yeah. And that's then where my power comes from. My ownership of that gives me then it empowers me then to realise that, hang on, if I created that, now I can go create something the opposite of that.
Absolutely.
So I didn't feel when I was a child, nothing against my parents.
No.
I've spoken to them about it. We've had conversations around it. I didn't feel as a child that I was loved. Now, my parents did the best they could with the tools that they had and how they knew to parent. So it's not their fault. I don't blame them for it. But I didn't feel loved. So I went off and looked for that missing piece somewhere else, which was this person that was obviously not a very nice person, because they used that against me to get me into a situation where I really shouldn't have been. Mm. But I'm aware of why I went there and why I stayed in that for so long, because I was getting something there that I wasn't getting at home. Mm. Not the painful side of it, not the abuse, but the other part, the psychological stuff.
Right.
Makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, that's a hard truth.
Yeah. But I created that relationship because it gave me something that I felt I needed at that time.
Yeah.
But saying that, now I've learned so much about myself, and even the evil, bad things that happened, I can look back at them now and I can pull positives from every situation. I think we spoke about this before, but offline, haven't we? Whereby this person would do things before I had to go and stand in front of a crowd of about 200 people to conduct a wedding. And so I'd have to come out 10 minutes after all this stuff had happened to me and stand in front of a room of 200 people, act normal, and run a full wedding ceremony as an 11-year-old boy.
Yeah. The first time you told me that story, I was in tears, by the way. I don't know if you knew that, but I was in tears.
Yeah, no. But what that gave me, when I look back at it, is I've got resilience out of that.
Yeah.
An 11-year-old boy being able to stand in front of all those people and smile.
Yeah.
After those things had happened, how strong is that guy? How strong is that person?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And once you realise that these things, yes, they were evil, yes, they were nasty, yes, they were hurtful and painful, but I can either allow that to eat me up for the rest of my life and keep me in a place of pain, or alternatively, I can pull the experiences out of that serve me now, because none of the bad stuff serves me now, because it's not happening right now.
Right.
So I don't have to. I can still, if I want to, I can still pull the emotions that I had in that room, and I can allow them to affect me. But I don't. What I'll do is I'll pull the pieces of it that I can use to serve me instead. That's the power.
Yeah.
So then I can move forward in a positive way every single day. Now it wasn't an overnight process to learn how to do this, by the way. It's not just suddenly go, right, that's it.
You don't go to the store and buy this on the shelf.
Yeah. Not going to do that anymore. Don't need that, but I'll go off and have an awesome life. No, it's not that easy. And I never would say it's that easy. It took a lot of hard work, practice, and dedication to working on myself. But it is learnable, and actually it didn't take too long to be able to do that. It's taken me a lot less time to get to where I am now than the amount of years I sat in that pit.
Wow.
So
that's really
if you
great.
think about it like that.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't anybody want to do that?
Because they're familiar, because they're in that familiar place. That's why they wouldn't want to. But why would you want to is probably the better answer. Why would you want to is because you feel a whole lot better and you get control of your life and you get to actually manifest things that you want and enjoy the life that you really dreamed of having. Those are the reasons to do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought I'd share that because I thought it was going down that route.
Yeah.
We were on that sort of stuff.
Well, I know you've got some news about what's going on with that too, but before we get to that, Siraj has a question. I want to make sure I get his question answered. He says, I think anxiety comes from peer pressure of a situation like that. How do you deal with the anxiety using the law of attraction?
Well, anxiety is, I don't really get to the anxiety anymore, because the anxiety is caused by a thought. So, for example, first time I did the podcast, so I've got thoughts firing into my head of what's going to happen. Am I going to be good enough to do this? Mm-hmm. Is Walt going to like me? Are the listeners going to like me? All these silly little thoughts that don't actually serve me because all they're doing is then creating chemicals in my body that create the anxiety feeling. Right. If that makes sense?
Oh, absolutely. Yep.
So it's about noticing the thoughts and pinging them off into the never never and saying, actually, I don't need you because I'm always all right when I do new things. But thank you for trying to look after me. It's about accepting that they're there, owning it and saying, look, I understand that you're trying to protect me subconscious, but I've done things like this before and I've been absolutely fine, so I'll be fine this time. I'm working with people that have got the same beliefs and views as me, so that's going to work. So all these different things, I'll just replace all those negative thoughts with a positive one, which then, in fact, I've just done it now. It's happening. I can feel the different feelings coming up in me. So now I've got a feeling of uplifting rather than sinking. Does that make sense?
Sure.
So that's how I deal with that. So I'll just replace them with positive thoughts that I could then be grateful for.
So anxiety is really treated just by selecting which thoughts you don't like and changing them or getting rid of them.
Yeah.
That's it.
Generally changing them, I think, rather than throwing them away. Because the danger is that you argue with your subconscious, and that's a no-no because the subconscious is still you.
Right.
It's actually trying to protect you. So I wouldn't advise arguing with it. But it's about accepting that it is trying to protect you, thanking it for that, but then saying, actually, I don't need you because I'm okay.
Right. Did you want to talk about what's been going on in your life recently? That you've had a couple projects you're working on, and you were hinting to me earlier that there was some progress. I don't mean to put you on the spot, but did you want to talk about any of that?
Yeah, we can do. I had the meeting with the chief advisor to the Archbishop of Canterbury around safeguarding in the Church of England.
Right.
Because my bad experience was within the church. And what I'm wanting to do, which I mentioned before, is change the whole way, or help to change the whole way that that's dealt with. So I'm wanting to change it from a reactive process where they only sort of react to people coming forward and then doing something about it, to a proactive approach where they'll go out and actively look for people and ask people to come forward for help, which hasn't happened before in the UK. So that's the project with the church. And then on the back of that, because I had the meeting, we used the offices of a charity called the Survivors Trust. Now I've spoken to them over many years throughout my process. So people kind of know who I am, and the CEO of the Survivors Trust actually sat in the meeting with me and the bishop from the church. And she was so in awe of my story and how I handled speaking about it with them and the vision that I had. They actually asked me to be a trustee of the charity.
Wow.
So I'm now, officially it's going through now, but I'm going to be officially a trustee of the Survivors Trust in the UK, which is one of the biggest umbrella organisations that deals with this sort of thing in the country.
Fantastic. Congratulations. That is really well deserved.
Awesome. Yeah. It's going to be good. It's going to be exciting about what comes of it and what we get to change.
Yeah.
Moving forward. It's always been a passion of mine, and now I've got all this support behind me as well, which is fantastic.
Right.
Absolutely fantastic.
You're doing something
Plus,
that Joel Elston talks about, and that is taking a tremendous adversity and turning it into a huge triumph. That's exactly what you're doing, which is, that kind of flies in the face of what it is we normally expect, you know? We normally expect that if you've been through really, really difficult, painful, debilitating trials, that, you know, the most we can do is just kind of survive them and maybe put them behind us, and that's about it. But Joel is like he is a vocal supporter of the idea that those are the situations in which we set ourselves up for the most amazing leaps of improvement in ourselves and in our experience and so forth. And you are a living example of that.
Yeah. I mean, I think that the key to it is owning who you are and owning your truth.
Mm-hmm.
And putting it out there in a way that makes other people realise, this is what it's all about for me, is trying to help other people realise that they don't have to suffer.
Yes.
They don't need to suffer. There is another way to do things.
Mm-hmm.
And the more people that I can get that message out to and help, then that's even if it helps just one person, that's me, I'm done. I've done what I needed to do. But I'm hoping it'll help a lot more than one. But yeah, like you say, once you own your own truth. When I first started doing this, I mean, I did it a while ago, but not to the extent I have now, where I've put it out on social media and I've started going down the route with the church and the Survivors Trust. It's going in national press. I think in next Sunday, possibly the Sunday after. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure which day yet, but once it's on there, I'll share it on Facebook, share it
to you,
Walt, so you can get it around. And that would previously have scared the hell out of me.
Mm.
Because people everywhere are going to know what happened to me and who I am. But now it doesn't, I'm not in that place anymore. I'm in a place of, that's going to go out there. And if there are certain people that don't like that, then that's their problem. It's not mine.
It is.
And nothing's going to stop me from going down this passion and mission that I've got to get to where I want to be. I'll be writing a book soon as well about the whole story. And I think you've just given me the title.
Oh, what did I give you?
Trauma to Triumph.
Trauma to Triumph. Ooh, yeah, that is good. I'm glad I thought
I might use that.
I didn't even know I said royalties. Oh, that's funny. Trauma to Triumph, though. That's a powerful title. That's a title that could get some attention. Yeah.
I'm gonna write that down.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
Before I forget.
You mentioned that this is all part of you being able to help people. And if you can help just one person, then you've triumphed. And I have a sneaking suspicion you've already helped a number of people anyway. But what you're really doing is piling on. You're actually going to be helping dozens, perhaps hundreds, perhaps even thousands of people. So yeah, I think it's safe to say you've already achieved the goal. You're piling on right now. Yeah.
I'm just going to keep going now. Yeah. Once you start, yeah, I'm very much a believer in once you start down a road of triumph. Mm-hmm. There's no point. You don't take your foot off the gas. You just ride with it. And this is the thing. This is the law of attraction stuff as well. Once you get in alignment and you're on the right track, things just start falling into place. And if you keep riding that wave, just keep riding the wave. Don't worry about what's coming or what's going to happen, because I know now I can handle anything that's thrown at me, because nothing's ever going to be as bad as what happened to me when I was a child.
Sure.
It can't be.
Yeah.
It's impossible. Apart from death, but to be honest, death doesn't worry me either, because we're all beings of energy, and my energy's going to go off and do something else. So.
Right.
So there is nothing that I need to be afraid of anymore.
Which is cool. Yeah, it's fabulous. That's the best place to be. That's when you become a true deliberate creator, right there. Yeah. Because that means that everything that you're doing, you're creating deliberately, which is fantastic. So, well, thank you for sharing the news. That is great news. That's exciting.
It's all been about Steve. It's all been about Steve today. I feel a bit. Let's give them something else. Although have we given them something? I don't know.
Well, we've had a number of listeners asking after my health, and thank you to those who asked. I am feeling considerably better, as I discussed at the early part of the podcast. I'm, much stronger place. I can actually sit up for more than half an hour to an hour at a time. That's something good. I can actually walk around. Well, actually, I was walking around yesterday because we had snow, so I had to go out and push the snow off the cars and move the cars so that they could plow. So that wasn't the best thing to do when you're running a fever and need to go lie down and so forth. But other than that, no, I'm feeling much better. I woke up this morning. Last night I went to sleep and I wasn't feeling all that good at all. I had a hard time going to sleep. I don't think I got some solid sleep until about 3 a.m. And then, boom, I fell asleep, like deeply, deeply asleep. And I woke up and like, whoa, what happened? So I'm feeling a lot better. Still have a little ways to go, but like I said earlier, if you're dealing with this flu that's going around, make sure you hydrate yourself. Boy, does that make a difference. I mean, I was doing, I don't know, probably a gallon of water a day, and it still isn't enough. That's the thing that's amazing to me. It still isn't enough. You have to actually do...
You think that's filling you up from top to bottom, wouldn't you?
You would think so, wouldn't you? I mean, wow. But that's the combination of focusing on what I wanted, which was to get well. Boy, did I want to get well. Talk about a rocket of desire. That one practically took the roof off. But that combined with the physical steps I was taking to go in that direction, they all combined together, and here I am. I'm feeling a lot better.
That's good. Good to hear.
So we don't have any, Suraj has the only question that we've answered, and hopefully we answered it to his satisfaction, but we get another 30 minutes or so to talk about really whatever we want to go to. So if you don't mind, I'm going to go back to the Steve show, because I think that the Steve show, I mean, my show is kind of fun, but your show is like blowing my socks off. You're part of one of the, you are now part of, you're on your way to being a trustee for one of the top charity organizations in the UK. I mean, that would be the equivalent here in the U.S. of being appointed as a trustee to the American Red Cross.
Well, no, it's not quite that big, I don't think.
Well, this is America, so everything's big over here, but still, But proportionally speaking, it is. It's very similar to that.
It is, I suppose, yeah, when you look at it like that. This is one thing I tend to do. I'm very modest, and I dumb down my achievements, I think, to myself sometimes, and I don't know whether that's just to keep me grounded or whether it's still some little self-worth issues in there. But I've done all this amazing stuff, but is it really that amazing? Anyone could do it.
I've been reminded on numerous occasions lately, through interviews I've been doing, conversations I've been having, just how remarkable my relationship with my wife is. Yeah. And to me, it doesn't seem remarkable because I'm just living it.
Absolutely right.
But I've been telling a lot of people lately, I've never really understood why it is that people feel like that if you are in a long-term relationship, you have to put up with some fighting and some compromising and so forth. Because Louise and I don't do that. And I've almost been like trying to argue people out of, don't even go there. But as I've been thinking about it, I've been realizing apparently our relationship's pretty darn rare. Not that we don't have disagreements. We disagree. It happens, but we don't become disagreeable. We don't fight with each other. We're respectful. If we disagree, like, oh, okay, we disagree. I wonder what we can do about this. It's not a big deal. And apparently that paradigm is a big deal because that's not what most relationships are like. And so I'm
mine's like that. I mean, we don't, me and Gemma don't fight.
Well, thank you. I'm glad to hear that. I feel a whole lot better now because I began to think, am I the only one? So good to hear. Thank you.
No, we do disagree. Like you said, I mean, you can't agree with everybody on everything, can you? It's impossible. Right. Like for example, what was it today? But this is the thing. The thing is, we're both very self-aware people. Mm-hmm. So we usually know that we've done something to upset the other person's subconscious level before they do. Now that might sound odd, but for example, this morning, I was sat downstairs and I was doing some work on the PC in the kitchen. And Gemma just came in, she gave me a cuddle and she said, I'm really sorry for making you feel inadequate earlier on. I thought, what you're on about?
What's that about?
Where this come from? And she says, well, I mentioned that you don't put enough effort into things and you don't work hard enough sometimes. And I said I didn't even notice she'd said that. But subconsciously, after she'd said it, I felt the feeling of it. So she'd realised, before I'd realised it, affected me on a subconscious level.
Wow.
How awesome is that?
That is awesome. And it's
the
mark. It's the mark of healthy human beings too, because that's what a healthy human being does. Unhealthy human beings are the ones that play blame games and power struggles and all that kind of stuff. Whereas what you and Gemma went through there, that was one small example of being truly loving, and that is owning your own stuff and, basically saying, "I'm sorry, I dumped some of it on you." I still have. I have a problem with, in a sense, not even a problem. I have an awareness. That's really what the word is. I have an awareness of so many people wanting to believe in the ideal that, and I don't see it as an ideal, but I'll call it that to be generous. The ideal that we need to have friends so we can vent to them, so we can dump our stuff on them. And I want to sit here and I want to sit here and make it really, really clear. That's not friendship. That's something entirely unrelated to friendship. And in fact, all of us have a responsibility to learn how to release our negative stuff without dumping it on somebody else. So I don't know where that idea came from. I think it may have originally come from maybe 12-step or therapeutic circles or something like that. The idea that you have to get stuff out, and 12-step is all about they create a buddy system. So you have this buddy who's your sponsor or whatever who's helping you out with stuff. So you learn you can vent to your sponsor. So they figure, okay, that means venting is a good thing to do. But I think it's a misrepresentation of what they discovered there, because what they really discovered is you have to get it out. Not that you have to get it out and dump it on somebody else, but rather you have to get it out. Exactly. Yeah. So I just wanted to take a moment just to get on my soapbox and say, no, dumping on another person is not a good thing to do. Venting to get something out, and there are other ways to do it besides venting, besides, raging at somebody else. But getting something out, yeah, absolutely, you have to express stuff to get it out, but you don't have to dump it on somebody else to do it. Louise was a therapist for 10 years, and she had one of the best methods I've ever heard. There are a lot of ways you can do it, but one of the best methods I ever heard was to take a pillow and scream into a pillow and to rage inside a pillow so that nobody else has to put up with all your noise. Nobody else has to put up with all your anger and your angst and all that kind of stuff, but you can get it out. I thought, that's brilliant. I like that. That's really, really good. So you're doing what you need to do. You're expressing it. You're getting it out, but nobody else has to suffer the consequences for it.
Which is a good one. And then, I used to do a similar thing because obviously I had a lot of anger issues before I did all my work because of what happened to me. And I used to drive to an open wooded area where there wasn't anybody and just scream and shout.
Yeah.
And throw sticks at people.
Right.
And then it's gone and it's not damaged anybody else.
Exactly.
Apart from maybe a tree. We don't throw the stick at a tree. But,
you and the tree are not on a speaking basis anymore, but that's okay.
But yeah, that was so that's very similar to the pillow method, just doing it, outside out of the way somewhere.
Yeah.
So yeah, I get that. But yeah, you're right. Dumping things on other individuals is not good because you're affecting their energy. You're affecting the way they feel. And again, that's not your job.
That's right.
That's not your job. It's their job to determine how they feel. And to be honest, if they're healthy human beings, then they can allow you to do that because they wouldn't take it anyway. They wouldn't take it anyway.
Yeah, they won't absorb it. But even so, it's just, I think it should be considered impolite to do that.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
definitely.
I don't know, maybe that's just me. But, apparently not because you agree.
Well, no. But you mentioned the 12-step program there.
Right.
Addiction. Because I know you and Joe were speaking about that on the Thursday morning podcast last week, was it?
Right, exactly. Yeah. Joel was, he was expressing some positive feeling about it and some dismay about some of the things that are done in 12-step.
Yeah. Because I think, I think the 12-step program is it's okay, apart from the fact that you're surrendering. If you're an alcoholic, for example, you're surrendering to the fact that you're powerless over alcohol, and you're also surrendering your power to a higher being or God.
Right.
You've got no control over what you do.
Yeah.
Which is completely wrong, in my opinion.
And the results prove it. I mean, 12-step programs have helped people, but there are so many people who have not been helped. In fact, I think Joel was citing some statistics. I think the best case was like 20% success rate. That's an 80% failure rate. I mean, even in American baseball, that's not a good batting average. I mean, that's just really poor.
It is. Well, because they're not. The thing is, it's about, for me, any change is about taking responsibility and making a choice to, making new choices that you're fully in control of.
Yeah.
Because if you're giving it away, you've got no responsibility, so it's never going to work. Mm-hmm. Eventually, I think most people that do after the 12-step program, because I've been through a 12-step program in my past, and it didn't work for me. But they were trying to, it wouldn't work for me, would it? Because of what I went through as a kid, so I'm not a very religious person, as it were.
Gee, I wonder why.
So yeah, it didn't really work for me, giving myself up to God and a higher power and reading the Bible every day. Sort of put me off instantly. But I used to drink a lot. But the only reason I was drinking a lot when I was in my 20s was because I was covering up. I was trying to get rid of the anxiety that I had. That was my coping mechanism.
Absolutely.
So I wasn't doing it because I was addicted to alcohol. I was doing it because I wanted to remove and become numb to the feelings that I was having.
Right.
And then once I started on the other work, the real work, of accepting what had happened, who I was, and the fact that I owned it and I could change it instantly. I can choose to have a drink now or choose not to have a drink. It's not an issue anymore. I don't need to drink. Mm. I didn't need to drink then. I just told myself I did because it was an excuse.
Well, in a sense, you did need to drink because, like you said, you had to mask the pain. The pain was overwhelming.
Yeah. But again, to be honest, the drinking didn't help.
No. I didn't say that. I didn't say it was efficacious. I just said you tried it to do that. That's all.
But everything. If I look back at my past and the amount of things that came out of my mouth in regards to how I was feeling and whose fault it was and why I behaved the way that I did and the choices that I made, it was all stories and rubbish that I made up in my conscious mind to protect my subconscious programming because I was afraid of moving away from it. Yeah. It was the fear of change. It was the fear of moving outside of this norm. Right. And that all those stories that were created, because they changed all the time, because people would pick up on the fact that, hang on, that's not really real, and I'd have to then think of a new one that had served that purpose. So I'd be coming up with these new stories all the time to serve the purpose of keeping me where I want it to be. It's just, when you look at it now, when I look at that now, it's just insanity. Just complete insanity. Mm-hmm.
Well, I look at why is it that 12-step programs manage to be successful to whatever degree they are? I mean, 20% success rate is nothing to get excited about, but at least there is a 20% success rate. So how do they manage that? You know, what's actually happening there? And while you were describing what you just described, it occurred to me that there is one thing that they were doing that was helpful. The way they described what they were doing is not helpful. But what actually happened was they said you have to surrender to a higher power. They said that you're powerless before alcohol or whatever the addiction of choice is. What they were really doing is they were getting you to let go of just everything that you were doing up until that point, because all you were really in was a negative spiral. They were getting you to let go of the negative spiral. That's why it works, to whatever degree it works. The problem is that because they were teaching the wrong thing, even if it worked for a moment, it didn't last very long, because then you just got into another negative spiral.
Yeah, because the subconscious always wins unless you actively change it.
Right.
And teach it a new way of being. So you always end up spiraling back to where you used to be.
Exactly. It's interesting, too, and Joel noted this on Thursday. 12-step did not come out of the therapeutic community. It did not come out of medicine. Psychotherapy didn't hardly even exist. I mean, Freud and Jung, they were about it. There wasn't a whole lot more besides those guys. There was some, but not a whole lot. And even then, most of them really had no idea what they were doing. What's that?
Did it come out of the church? I think it did, didn't it?
Well, it was associated with a number of churches. I don't know if it came out of any particular church. It was associated with them. But it was created by, I can't remember what his name is. He's the famous guy who started Alcoholics Anonymous, whatever his name is. But he started this one in his living room and basically called some friends together and just did the first meeting just based on here's what I believe. And he was a religious person, so I think that was probably where the religious side of it came into it. You know, he was drawing on whatever he could draw on. But he was basically saying, I don't know what to do here. I know I have to do something. So here I am doing something, and this is the best I know how to do. And so looked at it from that point of view, it's actually quite remarkable that he did as well as he did. He did very well. I mean, he didn't produce something that was an end-all, be-all, but he got a conversation started about something that was not open to conversation. I mean, being an alcoholic at that point was being equated to being a bum, being an irresponsible person, that there was something morally wrong with you if you were alcoholic. And he helped change those perspectives considerably with his approach. So it almost doesn't even matter whether or not 12-step worked. What matters is he helped shift that paradigm in society. And that's really big.
Yeah, it is. That's good. It's good that he did that because I think it's the same with most, what's the word? Taboo subjects, isn't it? That they will stay a taboo subject until somebody takes the initiative to speak about it and look at it in a different way.
Right.
Which is the avenue I'm going down with the abuse stuff. That's what I'm trying to do. So it's a similar sort of thing, really, to change the norm and the what's the word? I don't know. Change the perception of the whole is looked at and dealt with, rather than it just being can't talk about that. Oh no, shun that away. Let's not. No, we don't want to go there. Right. Because that's what it's like now. Yeah, I don't know what it's like in the States. Is it a similar sort of situation with it?
Oh, yeah. Well, I can give you a perfect example of it. Now, of course, if you look at the various Christian churches, there are a number of churches now, particularly here in the U.S., that have sex abuse scandals going on. Catholic Church has had one for quite some time. About, 6 to 8 months ago, something like that, there was a major report put out about Catholic diocese in Pennsylvania, and that led to a bunch of other reports and hundreds of priests being accused of violating kids and so forth. There's also, just in the last month or two, there was I think it's in the last month, there was a report that similarly came out about Southern Baptists, which is also very, very big here in the United States. And another couple hundred Baptist pastors being accused. There's a movie that came out about one particular pastor. This is really interesting in that he is accused and has long been accused of running a cult. And the reason that he's running a cult, there's even a movie that came out about this guy. He's a really horrible human being. But there's a movie that came out about what he did. And the reason it's a cult is because he abused children. At least that's the message, the overt message that they're giving. Now, the covert message may be a little bit different, and when you see the movie, it may be a little bit different. I'm not going to look at the movie. I don't really want to watch that. But but nevertheless, that's what the advertising is telling us, that he was this horrible monster, and that he was running a cult because he was abusing people. And I find that fascinating because, to me, that's trying to smooth over the abuse of the other churches. That's like trying to say, well, when you're running something like that, you're really running a cult. Not that the Catholic Church is a cult, not that the Southern Baptists are a cult. There's also Orthodox Judaism. They were having this big deal, too, with abuse within their circles. So there have been a number of them like that. But they're not cults. The real problems are the cults. That's what the underlying message is here. And if it weren't for the cults, we wouldn't have all this stuff. So, but that's what it adds up to. But you're right. You're right to laugh at it. I mean, it's laughable. It's sick and it's laughable all in the same thing. So is it still a taboo subject? Yeah, I think it is. I think it is. As much press coverage as it's getting, it is still a taboo subject and one not to be discussed in polite circles. You just don't do that.
Yeah. But that needs to change.
Oh,
and this is one of the reasons I'm doing this work as well. Because my thinking behind it and the intention that I've set for it is that it's going to be that talked about, and it's going to be that easy, I want it to be that easy eventually for people that it has happened to in the past to come forward.
Right.
And they're going to have enough confidence to come forward because of the message that I'm giving out, and I'm hoping others are going to follow in my footsteps, that anybody that's had it happen to them automatically will go, bam, I've got the confidence now. Everybody else is doing it, so I'm going to jump on that bandwagon.
Exactly.
I'm going to come forward. I'm going to say what's happened to me. And then all of a sudden, anybody that's planning to do something like this is going to think twice because, hang on a minute, every single person's coming forward now. So if I do that, eventually, they're going to come forward.
Eventually.
That's the plan, because I don't think you'll ever stop it altogether. I'd like to, but if you've got that much confidence and that many people coming forward and talking about it, saying it's happened to me, it's going to make it a heck of a lot more. People are going to think before they do it, aren't they? Because it's going to become too dangerous for them to commit that crime in the first place.
It's an interesting thing, though. I mean, because you're absolutely right about that first part. With the reports about the Catholics, about the Southern Baptists, about the Orthodox Jews, and there are probably others, too, that haven't come to the fore yet. Every time that one of those reports came out, the support lines that are available for, just general community support and so forth have been ringing off the hook with people calling in and saying, yes, I was a survivor. I was an abuse victim. I was too. The numbers just kind of ballooned because of those reports. So that's the great side of it. Like you said, that more and more people are feeling empowered to come out and say, hey, I was treated wrongly too, and I deserve to be made recompense or something. At the very least, it should come out that this was happening. On the flip side, we see it a lot here in the U.S. I imagine you see it in the U.K. too. Like in political circles, you see people who regularly lambaste others about X. In this case, we're talking about sexual abuse, but it could be any X, anything that's a negative thing that we don't want. Okay? Yeah. So they're lambasting people about X, and then you find out a year or two later that they themselves were committing X. So they were the perpetrators. The perpetrators are the ones who come out about it. And then you have all these, like we've had a lot of cases come out in the last year and a half, starting with Harvey Weinstein, of all these people who abused women and who treated women abominably and so forth. And as more and more of that comes out, you would think that would be, this is the second part of what you talked about, you would think that would be an incentive to those who are women abusers to not be women abusers. But actually it turns out they just don't seem to think it's going to happen to them. And quite honestly, the number one example of that is our president. Our president has been accused by multiple women of being an abuser. And a few of the cases have actually made it a certain way in the court system, but the combination of his wealth and his political power have made it really hard for them to pursue it. I think there's actually going to be some victories there at some point, but it's probably going to take years for that to happen. And nevertheless, he still is an unapologetic female abuser to this day. And he has huge numbers of followers who will do everything they can to deny that he is an abuser of females. President of the United States. It's insane.
See, I didn't know that because I don't watch the news, so I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, one of the reasons this whole, I don't want to go into the politics too much, so I won't go down this road too far. But one of the reasons that he's been involved in all these scandals is because it has come out that he ordered his fixer attorney, as he's called, Michael Cohen, to make payments to hush people up, to hush up his victims. And he denied every step of the way that he's been hushing them up. So that becomes an obstruction of justice thing, and that becomes an entree into investigating this other stuff, Russia and all that other thing. So that's where all that thing is pursuing, and it doesn't look like it's going to stop until they finally completely work their way through the judiciary system. But as long as that's going on, he still is unapologetic. He still, to this day, it's very clear his whole attitude is to demean women. He has no respect for women at all, except for a few. One of the few that he has some degree of respect for is Nancy Pelosi, who's the Speaker of the House of Representatives. Why? Because she's in a position of power right now to shut him down on things that he wants to do. And she's actually proven herself to be much better, much more politically astute than he is. And so she keeps beating him, despite the fact he's supposedly the most powerful man in the country. So he's getting a real ego beating going through all this stuff. But even so, he is still unapologetic. So I think it's going to take a lot for people who are like that, who have that kind of mentality of being abusers. I think it's going to take a lot for them before they finally say enough. Okay, I'm not going to do this anymore, and I'm going to help spread the word that other abusers, you probably should be stopping and getting some help, because it's not helping. I think we're quite a ways away from that.
I think we are, yeah. But we've got to keep going, haven't we, and see if we can.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Get there. But I think with people like that, he's that ingrained in the way he is, that he believes that he's right. He absolutely, 100% believes that he's right.
Absolutely. And Joel and I have talked about how Donald Trump is actually an expert deliberate creator. He's really very good at it. I mean, he makes choices that make both of us wretch, but nevertheless, the choices that he goes after, he has no problem turning into deliberate creation, manifesting stuff. He's really good at it. I don't think he understands necessarily how law of attraction works. I know that there is a picture of him with Esther and Jerry Hicks many years ago. I know that photo exists. So he has some awareness of it in terms of how it's taught. But I think that the way he applies it pretty much shows me that he really doesn't totally get it. I think he really doesn't believe that if he puts out stuff that is harmful for others, it's going to come back and harm him. I don't think he sees that. But we will see.
That's the ego, isn't it? He's very egotistical.
Yes.
Anyway, that's enough about Trump.
Yes, sorry. I normally don't go down that path, but it was such a perfect connection because he is an abuser.
Yeah, it was. No? Yeah.
Before we go, sorry.
It always seems to be people in power, doesn't it?
Oh, of course.
Yeah,
well, that's why they get there.
Abuse of power.
Yeah. Absolutely. Before we go, you are, among other things, a life coach. You have actually worked with people who have been through similar stuff with you. In case someone who's listening has been through something like that and needs somebody to talk to, how do they reach out to you?
They can either message me through Facebook at Steve Rowell. They can visit my website, which is www.dolifeonpurpose.com. That's getting some maintenance done now, so it might not work. Or they can hit me up on Instagram at steve.rowell. So any of those avenues, if you find me on there. I mean, you can click on the link through Facebook anyway, because my name's in there on the comments in the list, isn't it? So they can find my profile through that.
Yep.
But yeah, anybody that needs to chat about anything like this, it might not be an easy conversation, but it might be a conversation that you're ready to have. By all means do, get in touch.
And if you are ready to have that conversation, please have it, because that's how you become a better deliberate creator, and that's how you get the life you want instead of the one you've been suffering through. So,
indeed.
Well, thank you for sharing. You helped me feel a little bit better than I was even feeling this morning when I got up. I mean, I felt a lot better from this flu I've been battling, but just talking about this stuff even made me feel better, which is strange. I mean, we're talking about abuse, but we're also talking about healing from abuse and getting past it and not letting it govern us anymore. And that's very positive. So thank you for sharing.
No, my pleasure. It's been great again. So I'll see you on Thursday.
Absolutely. We'll talk on Thursday, and we'll see all of our friends who are listeners as well here on All the Way Today. Goodbye, everybody.